Welcome to the webcast, Understanding Indirect Cost Rate Terminology. Detailed information about the indirect cost rate proposal process can be found at education.ohio.gov and by searching Indirect Cost Rate Proposal. Please download a copy of the instructions and workbook now for reference while listening to this instructional video. This video discusses some of the more common terms you will need to understand when applying for and utilizing an indirect cost rate. Understanding this terminology will also assist in the accurate completion of the indirect cost rate proposal. We will discuss general definitions first and then move on to the terminology that is only applicable to the indirect cost rate proposal. You will find the definitions in this video plus others in the indirect cost rate proposal instructions. Let's begin by discussing what a direct and an indirect cost is. Direct costs are incurred for a particular cost objective. These costs are easily assignable, can be tracked back to an expense that was directly applicable to an award and did not benefit any other cost objective. Examples of direct costs include compensation of the employees who administer the program, supplies and material used for the program, and travel expenses to carry out the program's objective. Indirect costs represent the expenses of doing business that are not easily identified with a particular grant, contract, program function, or activity, but are necessary for the general operation and activities of the organization. It is normally difficult to track an indirect expense back to a specific cost objective. Indirect costs can include fixed and variable costs. The federal regulations describe accounting and payroll, personnel management, or human resources as examples of organizational disciplines associated with indirect costs. Ohio's Uniform School Accounting System, or USAS, function codes that have been identified to encompass indirect expenditures are 2400, 2500, 2600, 2700, and 2900. Please note that these functions are further broken down in the indirect cost rate proposal. For example, 2411 or 2960, etc. Regardless of the function number, districts should always review their data to ensure the expenditures meet the criteria as an indirect cost. Oftentimes, educational activities such as curriculum development, pupil data, library services, evaluation services, and school services are mistaken for indirect cost functions. They are not for the direction and control of the organization, but rather provide services to schools or students and are not considered indirect expenses. The terms we will discuss now are applicable only if you are submitting an indirect cost rate proposal. Let's define the rate types first. There are two types of rates, restricted and unrestricted. The restricted rate is used for most U.S. Department of Education programs administered by school districts that have the supplement, not supplant requirement. You can access the U.S. DOE's master list of federal grants that require the use of restricted rates by going to www.ed.gov and searching Restricted Rate Master List. The unrestricted rate is applicable to grants that are not subject to the supplement, not supplant legislative restriction. For example, the Medicaid and food service programs use the unrestricted rate for indirect costs. You will learn more about the difference between these rates and how they are calculated throughout the Indirect Cost webcast series. Understanding unallowable and excluded cost is important because they directly impact your indirect cost rate. Unallowable costs cannot be charged to your grant awards. However, when computing indirect cost rates, unallowable costs should be included in the direct allocation base if they benefit from allowable activities. Examples of unallowable costs that should be included in the direct allocation base are entertainment, fines and penalties, general governance, and contributions or donations made to outside organizations. Excluded costs will not be part of the indirect cost rate computation. Excluded costs include capital outlay, debt services, judgments against the school districts, certain transfers, internal service fund expenditures, and prior indirect cost recoveries. Modified total direct costs, or MTDC, are all direct salaries and wages, applicable fringe benefits, materials and supplies, services, travel, and up to the first $25,000 of each subaward. The modified total direct cost excludes equipment, capital expenditures, charges for patient care, rental costs, tuition remission, scholarships and fellowships, participant support costs, and the portion of the subaward in excess of $25,000. You will have a clearer understanding of the importance of these terms as you work on the indirect cost rate proposal and charge indirect expenses to your grants. Please visit other webcast videos in this series to learn more.